Sunstone. Sunstone Cities is an economic development firm that does project financing and project consulting. So let's say you have a project and you are looking for public infrastructure financing solutions, or let's say you are from a government agency or work with government agencies and are looking to build out a task or build out your staff augmentation programs. Feel free to contact any of us from the Sunstone Cities team and we'd be happy to chat. You can also scan this lovely QR code and follow us on LinkedIn to get all the amazing updates for all of our P3 events, all of our conference appearances, and all other thought leadership that you may want to learn more about when it comes to Sunstone. Now, without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to the amazing Elsa.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy Friday. I know World Cup is going on and everything else, so I truly appreciate you coming out here. So my name is Elsa Wadzinski. I am with the Employment Training Panel, ETP. So we are part of an agency that provides training funds to our employers throughout the state of California. So California's workforce training funds, for the programs that we cover, we have a couple of types of contracts. We have a single employer contract where employers can contract with us directly to get funding to provide training to all of their employees at their company. We also have what's called a multiple employer contract. That is where an entity will apply to get our funding and provide it to many employers, which we call participating employers, to get the funding out quicker. We also have what's called a current initiative to support Department of Navy. It's called the California Shipbuilding Ecosystems Alliance, also known as CALC. We do use a lot of acronyms, so I apologize. Also an apprenticeship program, which is specific to Department of Apprenticeship Standards, although we do fund all apprenticeship training. We also have what's called our RESPOND program. That's the Rapid Employment Strategies on Natural Disasters Response Fund. And that's through the governor's office for anyone who is having any type, when the state of California has a natural disaster. If there are employers who are doing something to directly impact those disasters, ETP will fund training directly related to that. There's also, especially for our small businesses, something called a paid families leave program, where any small business can get either $1,000 or $2,000 for anyone who is on paid family leave. And I'll have information for who holds that contract to be able to utilize that funding. Also, recently, actually earlier this week or late last week, we just got funding, it's a grant, our electrical vehicle infrastructure training program, and that's other funding that was provided through to ETP to be able to get out to our employers. So as you can see, we do have a lot of programs for our employers. So essential ETP. ETP gets $110 million estimated every year to provide to funding to our employers. So in 25-26, ETP's funding snapshot, which just ended June 30th, because July 1 will be our new fiscal year, we had 287 contracts where we served 72,015 employees to get trained. Of those proposals, 88 of those projects were specific to the manufacturing section. We had 31,096 employees that were trained, which is about 43% of all of our funding and training. That's important because ETP's priority industries are those industries that focus on out-of-state competition. We want our employers to stay and grow in the state of California. So out of the other 53 projects, we supported employers in high unemployment areas for a funding amount of 13.5, 77 projects to support small businesses with 16.5 million of the funding to serve 12,881 employees. For our current fiscal year, which is going to start July 1, our funding is as follows. And it is going to be, again, we're hoping an estimated $110 million. The governor has not signed the budget this year yet, usually around July 1. We hope that that'll happen, so we will get that full amount of funding. And it'll be divided with single employer contracts of over $45 million, multiple employer contracts of about $28 million, apprenticeship programs, which is 25% of our funding, and that's specific to Department of Apprenticeship Standard curriculums. small business contracts, which get about $6 million, and our critical proposals, which is also another $6 million. Critical proposals is funding set aside for employers who are growing in the state of California or moving to California and who are going to, expand hiring employees. Relativity Space, GKN, Edwards Life Sciences, those are some critical proposals that were all approved in this last fiscal year. So, what is ETP? It is a pay-for-performance contract to reimburse the costs of employer-customized job skills training. It's established by the legislature, governed by an 8-member panel, and it funds worker training statewide to supplement an employer's training budgets. Because a lot of times, of course, employers have a training budget, but it's not enough. And the first things to get cut when there's a pinch is usually training. So ETP will supplement their training budgets, especially if something new is going on in the industry. There's a change within their company. They're adding a product line. They're going from a 5-day work week to a 7-day work week. Whatever it is, we let the employers tell us what's happening within their company, their industry, and what their need for this training funds is, and how it will hopefully help our workforce in California grow or keep employees in jobs with career paths and wage progression. So again, for our core funding, the main types of contracts we have are a single employer, so single employers can come directly to us, or a multiple employer contract where an entity will hold our funding and provide it to many single employers, which we call participating employers. And so multiple employer contractors include groups of employers such as chambers, trade associations, economic development collaboratives or corporations, public or private training agencies, community colleges, workforce development boards, and anyone who is a WIOA grant recipient. They can hold our funds. The great thing about a multiple employer contractor is that they can get out to many employers. And for small, medium-sized businesses especially, they don't have the bandwidth or the time to go ahead and apply directly with us, and they need maybe immediate training for certificate training, such as OSHA 10, OSHA 30. They could go directly to one of these entities and say, hey, do you have room in your contract to fund this training for us? And they'll be able to support you in that manner. So, are you an eligible employer? To be eligible for ETP funding or a participating employer to get funded through a MAC, you have to be subject to the unemployment insurance tax. So companies have to be tax rated. The reason for that is that's where our funding comes from. Our funding comes from that UI tax. Every employer pays about $7 per full-time employee per year, and we get about $110 million of that funding back to give to our employers to fund training for their employees to upgrade skill sets, keep them employed, keep them in jobs again with wage progression and a career path, and off of unemployment, because again, where the funding comes from. So to be eligible, you have to have at least one or more full-time employee, use a California Employer Tax Payroll account number, also known as the California Employer Account Number, CEAN, to report wages. That number, if you're not sure if you're tax rated or not, is found on your DE9, DE6, or DE1, and that's the form that's used to report your quarterly payroll taxes to the state of California. So, under certain circumstances, some nonprofit employers may benefit from ETP trained placements or training for their employees, because some nonprofits are also still paying into the UI fund for their employees. So that's important to know and point out. So, training requirements, because again, it is a contract. We want the employers to have a buy-in to do this training, and that's why ETP has been around since 1982. We are not a grant. We do have grant funds that we give out for other things where people come to us and say, can you get this funding out to our employers because we do a good job of it? But for our core program, we are a pay-for-performance contract. All you need to remember is trainees have to get at least 8 hours of training. They can get up to 200 hours of training if they're employed. If you're doing what we call a new hire program, where you have people who are unemployed, you're training them into a specific job to get placed in employment where you have employers ready to hire them, you can get up to 260 hours of training, because they may need some additional soft skills, some basic skills such as math, maybe they need literacy skills, but all trainees can get all types of training. So after the completion training, they have to stay working for the employer full-time. Our purposes or definition for that is 35 hours. And they have to stay with them at least 90 days after that last date of training within the contract term. Contract terms are usually 2 years. and it has to be within the contract term. So they also have to earn a contract-specific minimum wage after retention. So all you have to remember, 8 to 200 or 260 hours of training, stay working for an additional 90 days, making the contract-specific wage after retention. Who are eligible trainees? They're full-time workers, seasonal workers, or unemployed individuals, and small business owners also may qualify for funding. Who can provide the training? This is the reason I love our program. It can be any of these things. We do not provide the training. We are not the experts in industry or training. We just fund it. And we let the employers tell us what their needs are. So it can be the employer's own staff, subject matter experts, internal trainers, which is great if you have to deal with a succession plan and you know people are retiring. Use those employees before they retire to provide training to bring up the next set and maybe backfill and hire behind them. You can also use California-based third-party trainers. And if you have training agencies or someone you know specifically that has specific training that meets your needs because you can't do it internally, you could do that. We also use training agencies under the multiple employer contracts, which include our community colleges. We do have one of them here today, Rancho Santiago Community College. They do specifically AI training. They also do other training as well, but their specialty is AI. So we, again, let the employers tell us who are the trainers, what are their training needs. Common curriculum topics, it's what the employer wants. It could be computer skills, commercial skills, manufacturing, continuous improvement is big. Literacy skills, also basic skills, basic math, reading, job-related skills. What do we not fund? Legally mandated training such as sexual harassment or labor law. Company orientation for onboarding, meaning picking your insurance, how to fill out your time card. If it's onboarding to see how you fit into the job or the company as a whole, where does your job fit? What do the other units do? How does that fit in? We will fund that training. Basic safety training, we won't fund. Generic or non-specific job training, we also do not fund. And training used to meet continuing education requirements, such as for CPAs. I know that they have to do certain training every year to stay certified, but that's also part of what their occupation is, so we won't fund that. But also almost anything else we will fund. We let you tell us what training you want in a curriculum, and an analyst will tell you if there's anything that might be questionable. So, training reimbursement rates for ETP, it would be computer-based training is non-interactive training where you sit down at a computer and a certificate spits out after you complete that program. It's $11 per trainee training hour. Industries outside of a priority industry, and those are generally the ones that don't meet a list that we have based on a NAICS code, which I'll talk about later. It's $24. Otherwise, if you're a priority industry, critical proposal, or a special population that we've identified as need to provide funding to keep jobs here in California or grow jobs here, it would be $28 per trainee training hour. So again, this is to offset the time someone is in training and not working. So it's not like, here's the invoice for the trainer, please pay it. We don't do that. It's the employer's buy-in to let their people off of work to be in training, and we will offset the cost of that training by reimbursing at these amounts. So, fiscal year contract caps. Single employers can come in for a contract at $650,000 a year. Critical proposals and our multiple employer contractors, it's $900,000 for this fiscal year. And apprenticeships, it's going to be based on demand. That again is for Department of Apprenticeship Standard specific training. And then for our delegation orders, it's $75,000, and those come in on a rolling basis. So, contract funding snapshot. Companies that are single employers, I put in a couple of critical proposals, and they're in Orange County. Edwards Life Sciences and Anduril Industries. And then I also included industrial threaded products, Generations Healthcare, Stir Foods, and you can see how much funding that each of these companies came in for and received as part of their contracts in contracting with ETP. Those are single employers, and most of them are larger employers, so they came directly to us. Remember we talked about the multiple employer contract? That is in that other column that we have here. So I've included a workforce development board, Celico. They get the max every year. That was last year's fiscal cap was $850,000. We upped it to $900,000 for this fiscal year. South Bay Workforce Investment Board, South Bay WIB, $725,000 $26,000. South Orange County Community College, they're going to get $355,000. El Camino Community College, the max, $850,000. Rancho Santiago, they're on track for July, yay. And they'll be coming in for a little over $400,000. And again, specific to AI training. And since Roger Lloyd is here from Rancho Santiago, you could talk to him about training and potentially signing up for some training through them. ETP writes over 300 contracts a year. We award an average of $300,000, and we fund about 80,000 workers per year. So that's just a snapshot of what we do in a fiscal year. Now, we spoke a little bit about priority industries. This is based on, working with EDD. They have what's called labor marketing, and it's the LMID. EDD gives us a list of who they found are the most priority industries based on companies that are leading the state of California, what's going on in industry, so on and so forth. And these are what we found. So you'll see there is agriculture, finance, construction, healthcare, IT, manufacturing, mining, quarrying, and oil, professional and scientific technical services, biotech, all of that. These are priority industries. If a company doesn't know if they are a priority industry, they could go to the link that we have here and they put in their NAICS code. And that's the Northern American Industrial Classification System code that they signed up for and said that's what their industry is. And once you put the NAICS code in our system that we have the link here for, it'll tell you if you're a priority industry or not, so you know how you can fall into getting the funds and what the wages after retention are for funding. So, California Shipbuilding Ecosystems Alliance, I'm shifting gears a little bit. This is an initiative that came into us. We previously did something with Cascade and Cadence, which was cybersecurity. When that became such a big issue, Department of Defense came to ETP and said, look, we need someone to address this. We put together a consortium and we did different incentives, different training, different consulting services, a variety of things to help people get hired into jobs that would combat or address cybersecurity issues. And now, once that ended, they came to us now with the California Maritime Industrial Base Shipbuilding Initiative, because Department of Navy has such a need to build ships right now, and we have a very large coastline. They came to us and said, hey, you guys did a great job with this. Can you help us out here? So, CalC, it's a statewide government industry and academic consortium focusing on strengthening the U.S. Navy submarine and maritime industrial base through workforce development, supplier growth, and technology transfer. And so basically that funding that is put aside there, it's to help our advanced manufacturing supply chain to address what the Department of Navy needs. So in reviving the shipbuilding ecosystem, CalC brings together 150 government, industry, academic, and nonprofit partners with supporting the defense industry in the past. Some of our partners are listed here. El Camino College, we have the Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation, California Cybersecurity of Excellence, of course ETP, Cal Poly, UCLA. So these are our partners. This is part of a larger consortium. This is no longer just training funds, it's additional incentives to help address what's going on right now in the state of California, to hopefully get people to hire more people, bring more jobs, and grow businesses. Anduril was part of that, Relativity Space is part of that. We're also working with Mare Island up north, and so the Working Waterfront Coalition, we brought in San Diego and Long Beach. I know you guys at Sunstone work a lot with Long Beach. You work with many of the same partners there. So, this is what we're trying to fund to grow jobs again. So our apprenticeship programs is Department of Apprenticeship Standards information. So we get so much demand for DAS approved training. We put aside a certain amount of funding and we open up an application system for 1 month a year, and it just closed, for DAS specific apprenticeship training. So since there's such a demand, we open it up, we see how many applications come in, and they determine how much funding they can give out based on what the demand is. So if you're interested in that, I put a link on here for our ETP apprenticeship program link, so you can contact them, because those funds will go out probably in September, and we have multiple employer contractors there as well who will hold funds for that. So if you need DAS approved curriculum type training, that's who you would contact. Rapid employment strategies on natural disasters. Again, this is a special program where we have a limited amount of funds to give back to employers who have training that specifically addresses the direct impacts of a declared natural disaster. Started out with droughts, moved into fire, we had tidal waves, we had COVID, we have a myriad of things in the state of California, unfortunately, but we always respond. Hence the name of the program. If anybody has anything related to that, or you think that you have training that could address that, reach out to us directly. Paid family leave. Any small businesses here? If you guys have a small business of 1 to 50 employees, if you have anyone who's gone out on paid family leave, you could get $2,000 back per employee just because they were out on paid family leave, and we know that impacts a small business. If you have 51 to 100 employees, you could get $1,000 back for anyone who goes out on paid family leave. So the state of California is trying to support small businesses especially who may be impacted by that while still supporting those who need paid family leave. So we have 2 contractors who have that funding ready to give out to you, and the information to contact them are on this slide. So we just found out early this week that we just got a grant, again, separate from our normal core funding. This is a grant for Electrical Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program, EVITP. And we have a grant application window that'll open July 1, closes July 31. And they have an orientation that'll be coming up July 7th. So if anyone's interested in that, you can find the information there. So why am I out here talking to you guys? Because I want to let you know about California workforce training opportunities. A lot of people don't even know who ETP is. We are small, not going to lie, and we have limited funding, and there is a high demand for it, but we want to get this funding out to new employers, multiple employer contractors, anyone who can get this money out to our employers to train up their current workforce, keep people employed, grow, their skill set in jobs with career paths and wage progression. Again, funding comes from the UI fund. That's our unemployment insurance. We don't want people going on unemployment. We want to keep them employed. So key industry sectors that we focus on: advanced manufacturing, healthcare, technology, logistics, construction, clean energy. Specifically in SoCal and OC, how can we impact you? We want to address highly diversified economy, strong employer demand, innovation ecosystems, growing infrastructure investments in this region to, again, grow our employers, grow their workforce, and grow their companies. Our role is to connect workforce development training funds to support California employer training needs. So to connect with us, because we are a statewide agency, although we are small, we are mighty, we have Elise Candelaria, who's in the Bay Area North Coast, Robert Meyer, who is our fearless leader and the Director of Economic Development, who is covering Central Valley and Sierra right now, as well as statewide. And I cover Southern California, and we have Janelle Huerta, who's here with us today. Thank you, Janelle, for coming up from San Diego. And she covers San Diego, Imperial Valley, and the Inland Empire. God, you're almost half statewide as well. So this is our little team. We are here to connect with you. If you want more information, we do an interactive orientation every other Tuesday for an hour. You can scan the QR code, and it is scheduled for an hour. It's more in depth. I cover the slides in probably 30 minutes. I talk fast, so I apologize. And then I open it up for Q&A, so anyone can ask me questions based on the information they hear. So hopefully I can clarify all that great info. The other thing I did is I put a link in here for our mailing list. You want to get on our mailing list because when we get grant funding or funding from other sources that's not just what we normally have, that's how you're going to find out about it. That EVITP went out, I think, either early this week or very late last week, and I threw together a slide because I wanted to make sure you guys knew about it. But I found out about it first because I'm on the mailing list as well. So, with all of that said, I know that was just a little information. I'd love to open it up for Q&A in case you guys have any questions.
Could you elaborate a little bit on critical proposals? What do you consider in that?
So critical proposals are companies who are currently here or want to move here. And you're going to need to hire people, or you're expanding your current workforce. So if it is a company who's already here and you're growing, such as Anduril, because I think they're outgrowing their current facility, so they have to grow, and they're going to hire more employees. Relativity Space, who took over the old Boeing C-17 building, they hired 500 people in their first proposal, and they're coming in with another critical proposal. They've already hired 900 people this last year. So, and I think it's the last fiscal year. So companies that are growing, things that are going on in industry, and we need people or companies to move here. Pacific Steel, which is up north, they're coming in for a critical proposal. I think they're going to be on our July panel meeting. So it's companies that are growing and going to be hiring.
So I would really follow up after this session with you because our company is ready to scale and grow. We have already introduced a new standard of sustainability in the building sector, and we have a platform that revenue generation, but we don't have workforce enough to get more projects, building projects.
No, definitely.
So
Let's have the
really
conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you sticking around afterwards?
Yeah.
And one-on-one questions for you.
Yes, absolutely. And again, it's a lot of information, you guys. So I know it's a lot to digest. And just with the high levelness, if you guys are interested in going to that interactive orientation, seriously, you have to sit through some of it. I get a little more in depth of some of the info, but again, and I'll stay here and definitely answer any questions you all have one-on-one or here in the group, but we do the same thing after the interactive orientation because we know it may take more than one conversation to, understand all of this. And we'll try and help and guide you based on what your needs are, based on what we've seen for history, other projects that have come through our panel to guide you with what might help you and get you started at least in benefiting from this funding.
Do you have, so like those funds that are available for the multiple employers, single employers, like is that maxed out every year? Are you looking for more people to do that work? I guess that would be my question.
We are now because July 1 is our new fiscal year, so we've expended all of our funding for the last fiscal year. So if you are interested in holding a multiple employer contract, you would start the process to apply now so we could get that funding out to you. And for small, single, medium-sized employers, large employers, if you have an immediate need for training, we have what's called the multiple employer contract training list. So you can contact any of our multiple employer contractors, let them know what training you need. And if they have funding available, you could go under their contract while you wait to apply for another one in the event that we run out of funding. We usually use all our funding every year, but this is a good time because our new fiscal year starts July 1. So now we're looking for the new contracts to come in again to start this whole process for a new fiscal year.
Basically, for training of existing employees, or we can use it for hiring new employees?
It's funding for any employee you have, whether they're newly hired or currently employed.
So we will hire them first and then you will reimburse the fund. This is what I'm asking.
So it's contract based on the training they receive. So our funding is performance based. So they have to complete at least 8 hours, can get up to 200 hours of training, stay working with your company at least 90 days. Once they've either met the max or you've determined that they're done, and make a contract specific wage after retention. And there are benchmarks where you can receive funding throughout that time frame. But the funding's not earned until you've met all those requirements. Part of that is because, again, we want the employers to have a buy-in to do this training. If the employers aren't going to partner with us, it's not going to work. If someone thinks, oh, it's a grant, we're just going to give you the money, I hate to say, for our program, that is not how it works. But that's also why we've been around since 1982. That performance-based contract model has shown the benefits that it's provided to our California employers and how it's helped the state of California. We came in 1982 when we lost so many companies to overseas business, out-of-state competition or whatever. ETP was formed to try and provide training to upskill the current workforce, to help our employers figure out what they needed to do, whether it was continuous improvement, manufacturing skills, new equipment, whatever it was, so they could remain competitive and survive when that big shift happened. So again, that's what we're here to do. We're here to help you, but we're also here to hear what your needs are because we don't know every industry. We don't know your specific business. And again, that's why I love the agency. It's not, here's the list of employers, this is the only training you can provide, that's all we're going to fund. Nope, we're working with our employers. But it is a contract performance. For ETP Core, it is not a grant.
Thank you.
Could you,
You'll be next.
could you elaborate a little bit on how you work with schools, particularly the community colleges? For example, Long Beach Community, the City College, has a large electric vehicle training program. would that work in here, and do they have to come to you to apply?
So yes, and Long Beach Community College has funding with us right now. I went to Cal State Long Beach, so whoop. So I love Long Beach. I live in Montebello, but love Long Beach. And there's so much business going on. And our old chief deputy director is now the executive director over at Long Beach WIN. And with all the growth going on out there with aerospace and everything else going on, you know, that Long Beach is a big focus. But specifically to that, we network with all of our community colleges so they know about our funding. We also try to get to the CSUs, the UCs as well, to try and get them to come in. But what they would have to do is have participating employers, I would say focus on industry demand, and then say, hey, this is an incentive you can benefit from. And then they would come to us saying, hey, this industry, these employers say they have a need for training, and they want to do approximately this for these occupations, this type of training, da 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 da. We help you come up with a contract amount, and they would get that funding to give to all of those participating employers. Specific to electric vehicle infrastructure, Cerritos College does a lot with us with that, Rio Hondo too. So depending on the curriculum, if it's Department of Apprenticeship Standards curriculum, then it would have to be, you know, one of the trades who are providing that training because it's DAS approved. But if it's other program training that's not DAS approved curriculum, we could fund that as well. And that is on a rolling basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Bolesław Boczkaj. Thank you for a nice presentation. Again, thank you to Sunstone for bringing you in. But my question is specific to a real-life situation. A company, small company, gets orders on the books, but no notice to proceed. So they are not working on the contracts, and they are waiting for the client to whatever, get the funding, make the final decision, whatever. In that kind of scenario, where do the funding for the training come in? Because the small business doesn't have money coming in, but they know that in the future they will have a need, and very likely it will be a very strong demand to upskill or to get to speed. So how are those type of really tough situations handled?
So honestly, that is the perfect question, because while you have a workforce who's waiting because that contract's delayed, that's the perfect time to provide training, because now you have a little, you know, wiggle room where you can really take them off of work to get this training. And while you have less contracts, train them up so you can get more contracts. Train them up in whatever, you know, curriculum they need so you can obtain those contracts. Train them on, you know, whether it's something, do you need a certain certification or something to contract with Department of Navy or, you know, DOE or whoever it might be. You tell us what your needs are so you can get more business. Or because, again, business is business. You don't know, and yes, of course, especially for small businesses, if a contract gets canceled, you're stuck there going, now what? Instead of laying off those people, let the training funding help offset the cost of keeping them employed. Give them more skills. Hopefully those skills will help you get more business. Again, I'm not a business owner, but I've seen other companies do the same things. There are companies where they have to close down, you know, 2 weeks every year to clean equipment or to do something else. So what do? They give them 80 hours of training within those 2 weeks in a curriculum that they know, whether it's going to be new processes that they're doing, new safety things, how to operate new machinery, how to troubleshoot, process improvement, best practices, maintenance on a machine, whatever it might be. Utilize the funding during that time, and hopefully that'll offset the cost of not having that current business and that money coming in. Again, it's certainly not a fail-safe, you know, it's not for sure that that'll help, but I've seen, because I've been with ETP for decades, I used to be an analyst before they put me in economic development. don't know how I landed here, but nonetheless, I'm here. But I have seen those scenarios. So hopefully that information will help you. Again, I don't know every industry, I don't know every business, but I have seen that work. And those are some of our greatest success stories again, and why we've been here since 1982.
Thank you.
Anything else? If you guys have a minute, though, I would like to have Roger Lloyd, who's looking at a phone right now. Roger, if you want to step up just real quick and give a quick overview, is that okay to do? Oh, okay. Because I know there has been such a demand for AI training from all of our businesses, especially small business, that Rancho Santiago Community College.
Do you have a football? Sorry, I wanted a football instead of a box. Is that okay?
No, you can, oh, wait. They won't hear you on this mic, so you need to have the mic. But,
I was going to say thank you.
so wait, Roger stepped up to give us an AI-specific curriculum as well as other training, but it's so important. I just wanted you to take a few minutes so you can let everyone know what training
Sure.
you guys are providing.
Sure. So I'm the Director of Special Programs over Rancho Santiago Community College District. I run a program called CTI AI, Customized Training Institute for Artificial Intelligence. We are going on panel to get our ETD contract. So for those of you that are looking to get a contract or know somebody who would like to, it's a process you go through, and I will share with you. And I know it's self-serving. It sounds like it's self-serving, but it's always like when somebody's here, what are you going to say? Something bad? Probably not. But really, the ETD team for small and mighty. I won't talk about small, but I will say mighty is absolutely the correct word. The support that we get is insane. We have never had any issues ever getting Elsa on the phone or any other staff to help us get through our contract. So what do? We've been in the AI world, some of us, for a long time, 10 years, a decade in the business side. So we're focusing specifically on AI business productivity. It's very noisy out there. And so what does that mean when I say noisy? Just making sure that it's effective training, it's legitimate, and it goes all the way up from a certain level all the way up. So what we're seeing right now, we've been fulfilling through subcontracts. So if anybody is interested in working with some of the other partners, you can do it through a sub. There's a collaborator out there led by pretty much John Fox, I guess, in SBCD. He's amazing. Very, very good group of ETD providers. And you can work with them, right? So on our AI side, we have different levels, starting from your core basic level training all the way up until AI coding, which is unique and smart automations. What we're seeing right now is we do a lot of training through our subcontract right now in the areas of, believe it or not, technology companies that want to level up their AI trainers. We're in manufacturing. There's a lot of needs in manufacturing. I'll give you a very good example. Is anybody in manufacturing here familiar with it? Or standard operating procedures, right? Creating a standard operating procedure using AI tends to not, you get this output that's kind of okay. Have you found that, right? Well, there's an art to it. It requires a combination of diagrams, whiteboards, and all these other things, then you get an amazing output. So that's the type of training that we do. And we see a very large need for it, as you guys can imagine. So as opposed to some of the specialty trainings where it's a core, all the companies are like, how can I get my entire team trained? And so we'll do what's called a baseline training, just across the board, right? So where is your entire team? Are you at a level 1, let's call it, level 2, level 3, where is everybody? And then from there, we'll customize. I think one of the benefits of the specialty areas and with ETP is the training, it's imperative that it's customized. So I like the virtual online stuff. When it comes to actually training your workforce, if it's not customized to not just the vertical, but to the company, the true needs not come out. The other thing is when the companies do utilize ETP through at least us and our partners, and it's customized and they know that, now what you've got is a loyalty retention thing going on. That's a different level than saying, hey, go over there and look at some courses. Go take this off-the-shelf course. I'm not saying that's bad, but when they know it's customized and you're actually hitting their needs, that retention today, and you guys know, retention is everything. Number one asset, employees, right? That's actually the number one asset we have. So anyways, that's what we work on. That's our AI training. If anybody has any more questions, feel free to reach out. But what I would urge you guys is to get the word out on ETP. It is the most amazing program there is in California. I can share with you that I'm on the phone with statewide, because of our AI federally, I'm on the phone, and everybody's like, oh, we have a program similar, and when I hear it, I'm like, it's similar, but it's not as good. It just isn't. First, right, to launch something like this in the country.
Yep.
So funding-wise, so I would urge you to let everybody know that just get the word out about it, right? Get the word out.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much for the opportunity and taking the time to listen to this. I know it was long, a lot of information. Please feel free. We'll be out here. Janelle is here as well. Thank you, Janelle, for coming up from San Diego. And we'll answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
All right, so thank you so much to Elsa and Roger for giving some fabulous information on how to help grow your small business here in the community. So once again, we hold these P3 Strategy Series events once or twice a month. If you have any speakers that you want to hear from, topics that you want to learn about, Roger, maybe you want to come back up on the stage and talk some more about AI. You're always welcome.
Happy to.
And of course, every Friday, we have a whole ton of events here at the Sunstone stage. So I encourage you all to stay, network, ask some questions, and then if you want to hang out, the next upcoming event will be all about launching your e-commerce company with AI. So we have some speakers from Axio presented by Alibaba, GII, and so that'll be great as well. There may or may not be snacks. So thank you all for coming. I hope you found it educational, and please come back for more. Cheers.
Thank you.